very much, Prabhat, for this first lecture of a series of 4 lectures. You have set the tone already, and it would be presumptuous on my part to try and summarize your argument, which itself is a very clear argument and it's taken with great clarity and also with great force and also with underlying currents which are of great relevance to us today. So I would merely suggest that we have some time for discussion, and I would welcome discussion. But before I do so, because many people came late, I once again repeat that the lecture is available as a text also, and indeed all the lectures are available as text. So if you leave your email or some form of contact outside the meeting, we'll be glad to send it to you. But before that, before we close, questions or very brief comments are most welcome. Would anyone like to start? Can't be possible that nobody has a comment. Is it a question of just breaking the ice? Yes, here? Yeah, please. But brief, as I said.
It's very probably on the topic, but how do you respond when...
Can you also identify yourself?
Myself, Arash Moriana from Gurgaon. And the question is that how do you respond to someone who says that technology is going to eventually make proletariat revolution obsolete? It's going to get bourgeois.
Everybody will become bourgeois. You know, I'm going to discuss this at great length in my 4th lecture. Okay, but just to anticipate, since you may not be coming for that, that you know, I can't presume that you'll be coming for all of it. Well, no, I mean, I'm trying to say that as a matter of fact, in the current era of capitalist crisis, which is so serious, there is an attack on the proletariat everywhere. In fact, Joseph Stiglitz, the American economist, says that among male white American workers, there is an increase in the death rate that is comparable to what happened in Russia after the collapse of the Soviet Union. And that in peacetime is extremely unprecedented, and it's only symptomatic of the kind of distress leading to alcohol, drug abuse, and so on that typically the working class is subjected to. Because of which you are seeing phenomena like Trump, because of which you are seeing phenomena where the working class in Britain, for instance, has actually voted for Brexit. So at this moment of an enormous discontent of the working class all over the advanced capitalist world, the fact that, you know, technology might make the workers bourgeois at some point is something which I would not take as an imminent fact, you know. I mean, in fact, like Lenin had said in opposition to Karl Kautsky's theory of ultra-imperialism, that's like saying ultra-agriculture, that one day there will be no agriculture because all the food will be prepared in labs. So I think at this moment, I would not be very concerned with that. Will.
Yeah, please pass on the mic.
Space.
I'm not quite sure if I'm formulating my question properly. You have not touched upon the role of the government. Soviet Russia, Soviet Union, with socialism in one country, they tried to think of world revolution under the leadership of Comintern. Now, Comintern created its own problems. I don't have to mention any stances here. When London was being bombed, the British Communist Party refused to take a stand to oppose the invasion also of England, etc. The other thing which perhaps Comintern's actual goal after the First World War, I don't know whether we will be dealing with it after the Revolution and the subsequent lectures, in retrospect seems to have been very highly counterproductive. I mean, the fact that the question of the First World War, the question of war, etc., the left wing of the Social Democratic Party took a position which was, in its spirit, absolutely revolutionary, spirit of socialism, etc., humanitarianism, world outlook was absolutely fine. But carrying forward that split during the First World War after the Russian Revolution, when an almost final break had taken place in the Social Democratic Party, perhaps also facilitated the rise of Nazism, success of Nazism. And so this theme of world revolution under the leadership of Comintern, which meant under the leadership of Soviet Union, which meant under the leadership of the so-called national interest as not considered by Stalin and the Soviet party leadership, etc. All this created problems which I think the communist movement in most parts of the world did not discuss critically. They accepted a certain kind of position as the proper revolutionary position. I hope you'll deal with it. This part, if you think it's relevant in the subsequent lectures.
You know, I'm giving only 4 lectures. But I think, I appreciate what you're saying. But the point is that I think the Comintern's position also, it changes through time. All right. I'll tell you. Okay, when the Italian Social Democratic Party split, Livorno split. Lenin actually told the communists, you split from the socialists. And among the socialists there were several different groups. There was one led by Turati, one led by Serrati, who was much more left-wing. And then having split, then the next day he tells the communists, now you form a united front with Serrati. so it's not, because I think a lot of the reason for split was in a sense to introduce a certain kind of discipline into the functioning of the Socialist Party and so on. Rightly or wrongly, not necessarily that everywhere they had ideological, theoretical differences. The second point which so it was much more flexible, much more nuanced to start with, may have become more rigid later. The second point I'd like to make is that, let's take the Indian case. I have heard it, and Prakash is here, but I've heard it from M. Basav-Punnaiah, who, as you know, was one of the delegation of 4 Indian communists that went to visit Stalin in the 1950s. According to him, when the People's War thesis was propounded, because the Soviet Union was attacked by Nazi Germany, the communists, as you know, propounded the thesis. Many of them were released from jail and so on, and therefore they also opposed the Quit India movement. When they said it to Stalin, generally it was considered that the Comintern imposed this on the communists. As a matter of fact, it was the view of the communists themselves, and what is more, this may have been true elsewhere. The communists may well have taken positions thinking that this is what the Comintern would want us to do, rather than any direct interference from the Comintern. But then, Basav-Punnaiah's statement was that when Stalin heard this, he said, why did you take this position? It's not a correct position to take. So far from it being dictated, was actually taken from inside. So in general, I agree with you that, this whole idea of a world revolutionary center that is directing world revolution everywhere. I think its biggest failure was in the case of China, where Roy and Borodin had gone, and then Mao criticizes them. So the point is that, you know, while it is true that this whole idea of one world revolutionary high command directing revolution forces all over the world is not correct, quite often I think it was a much more mixed picture in which the fault did not only lie with the Comintern, that it quite often was our own internal mistakes, you know. So.
No, sorry.
No.
Instead of second international, first international course, and the second international, and the third international. Second international with all its faults, etc. Was a loose kind of federation of social democratic parties, where they often debated. I mean, the entire period from the formation of Second International, 1889 onwards, till 1911 or 14, every time they were debating questions of war and peace, militarization, etc. What would we do if our country attacked, or if some other country attacked us? All this was debated openly. And certain positions are adopted. Some were unanimously accepted by most parties, some were not. The kind of structure which is perhaps based on Leninist democratic centralism of Comintern made it impossible for that kind of a debate to take place within the
No, that's quite true. But I think that arose because of this understanding that we had entered a period of world revolution. In other words, I mean, precisely the kind of thing which I was saying earlier, namely that we have entered a period of world revolution, and the idea is that we must not let opportunities go by. And that's why it becomes very important. I mean, I think that probably, you know, I mean, and mind you, in my second lecture, I call this the Leninist conjuncture. The Comintern's own program called it the general crisis of capitalism. That capitalism had entered a period of general crisis, revolution was on the agenda, and the whole point was to seize the moment. Okay, I think that is what gave it a kind of that imminence is what gave it a kind of sectarianism, if you like, I mean, implicitly in quotes, that we have to go it alone if necessary. We don't actually have to talk to anybody else, etc. But interestingly, in the post-war period, that completely goes.
Namaskar, sir. Please allow me to speak in Hindi if you don't mind. Thank you, sir. जनाब, मैं आपकी बात से कहूँगा, जैसे जनरली मैं आपसे बात करता हूँ, आप ये जर्मनी में रिपीटेड अटेम्प्ट्स हुई हैं प्रोग्रेसिव फोर्सेस की रेवोल्यूशन तरफ बढ़ने की और उसकी सप्रेशन की, और उसके बाद नाज़ीज़ या नेशनलिस्ट फोर्सेस उभर के आती हैं और वो टेक ओवर करती हैं और वहाँ सप्रेशन हो जाती है प्रोग्रेसिव पार्टीज की। सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर आती है, जूस को जेनोसाइड होती है और सब लोग साइलेंट रहते हैं। उन्होंने जो क्राइम किया था 2000 साल पहले जीसस क्राइस्ट को सूली पर चढ़ाने के लिए, शायद उसका बदला लिया जाता है और सब लोग साइलेंट रहते हैं। उसके बाद हिटलर रशिया की तरफ बढ़ता है, लोग ये समझते अपने आप होता चला जाता है कि प्रोग्रेसिव फोर्सेस को सप्रेस किया जाता है, ज्यूज को मारा जाता है, हिटलर रूस के ऊपर चल जाता है। ये किसके सारे इशारे पर हो रहा था? मैं आई एम बीइंग अ स्टूडेंट ऑफ कंपैरेटिव स्टडी इन द एवोल्यूशन ऑफ हिस्ट्रीज, आई हैव डिफरेंट व्यूज, क्योंकि मैंने जो फैक्ट डिग आउट किए वो जो मैं डिस्कस नहीं करना चाहता, हिस्ट्री का एक दूसरा पहलू भी है। उसके बाद सोवियत यूनियन चले जाता है और नीचे से क्या उभर के आता है? अब जो उभर के आता है मैं उसके ऊपर आता हूं। इसके वेरी वेरी शॉर्ट सर, ओके मैं खत्म करता हूं। सबको जो चीज उभर के आती है मैं उसी पर सब चीज समाप्त करना चाहता हूं। उभर के क्या आता है कि वर्ल्ड वाइज थियोक्रेसी को जो है हवा दी जाती है, सारी दुनिया में थियोक्रेसी आ रही है। और कैपिटल और रिसोर्सेज प्रोग्रेसिव फोर्सेस से छीन ली जाती है। बड़ों जो लीडरशिप है उसको डिमोरलाइज किया जाता है, खत्म किया जाता है, किया जाता है और रिसोर्सेज, लैंड रिसोर्सेज और कैपिटल उनके हाथ से चली जाती है। हालात ये हो जाता है, फाइनल हालात ये हो जाता है, ये हो रही है जिसको मैं हिंदी में बोलूंगा बड़ी सिंपल भाषा में। और ये ले अपनी कंट्री मालूम, वो ये हालत हो गई कि अब जो प्रोग्रेसिव फोर्सेस हैं उनके पास, जो दूसरी फोर्सेस हैं नॉन प्रोग्रेसिव फोर्सेस हैं, उनके पास इतना पैसा है कि मीडिया और किसी भी चीज को वो खरीद सकते हैं। किसी भी चीज को वर्ल्ड वाइज उनके पास परचेजिंग पावर इतनी बढ़ चुकी है कि किसी को भी खरीद सकते हैं। लेकिन दूसरी तरफ जो प्रोग्रेसिव फोर्सेस हैं उनके पास खाने पीने के लिए रोटी भी नहीं है। That means they don't have the capital to carry forward. Thank you.
नहीं सुनिए, वो आपने जो जनरल बात की, this emergence of, let's say, fundamentalism of various kinds. Islamic fundamentalism has been used by imperialism in order to defeat secular nationalism in a lot of third world countries. देखिए, one after another. In Iran, Mossadegh's government, which was supported by the communists, was overthrown, and it stood for secular nationalism by the Shah's coup, which was supported. It was a CIA coup, which was supported by Ayatollah Kashani in Iran. आप किसी भी दूसरे, you look at Sudan, for instance. Largest communist party in the whole of Africa, and in Sudan, Mahjoub, who was the leader of the Communist Party, was assassinated, and a coup was effected with Nimieri, again with the help of the CIA. You find everywhere. You look at Indonesia, for instance, and obviously it has the third largest communist party in the world after China and the Soviet Union. Again and again, and Suharto's coup, which was effected by the CIA. The CIA actually overthrew in many of these third world countries secular nationalist stroke progressive socialist governments, and often used the ideological prop of Islamic fundamentalism. Afghanistan is well known. So the point is that आप जो theocracy की बात कर रहे हैं, Islamic fundamentalism, which now appears as a Frankenstein's monster, which is threatening the very forces that had created them, is something which was actually created to defeat secular nationalism. Let's not forget that the third world had an enormous spread of progressive secular nationalism coming out of the anti-colonial struggle. So this theocracy is something which is actually used by imperialism. More generally, as is well known in most bourgeois societies, religion is used as a means of actually keeping the consciousness of the workers at a level which is, therefore, does not transcend to revolutionary activity. That's a very general proposition.
Yeah. Prabhat, you made a very interesting point that bourgeois revolution, how it is distinct from proletarian revolution. And proletarian revolution, the way it took place in Soviet Union, had a dazzling dimension, but that need not be the case. That need not be universalized. But in fact, that has influenced our practice, and I think to a very significant extent, that after the revolution, agenda for transformation, etc., being taken up. And I think what all it means when you said that since we are engaged in the challenge of destroying capitalism, property classes, etc., what lessons does it have for the way proletarian revolution practice needs to be actually theorized?
Some of these issues I'll be coming back to in later lectures, so I better not go into it now. Not that I promise to do so with any degree of confidence or anything, but the questions you ask are the questions that bother all of us.
Yeah, I would like to restrict my questions to the lecture you delivered. So, because I think there are a number of questions and would be there for the next. We should keep for the other lectures also. In your lectures, you initially defined the universal character of Soviet revolutions or October revolutions by saying that where the praxis and the theory come together, and this is basically the result of that is the October revolution. But in the later part of your lecture, you also mentioned that at some junctures it becomes also the judgments at that time of the leaderships to take a call whether it is the interpretation of the imperialist forces of the World War, or it's the interpretation of whether the transcending capitalism is when is the right moment to transcend the capitalism into the socialism, or whatever the productive forces of in the society, whether it has reached that level, whether it can transform. So don't you think it will then contradict? On one side you characterize more as a scientific way of merging the theory and the practice. On the other side, you also have given some. You can correct me as what I might not have gone it correctly what I heard, what I learned, but I somehow find it a little bit confusing. Can you elaborate more on that?
No, I mean, I think you're right that there is a tension, and that tension underlies, in my view, the collapse of the Soviet Union. In other words, okay, who is the judge of what is right theory? How do we know what is right theory? Okay, if it is a matter just to be sorted out, let's say, in the Central Committee, in that case, the judge of what is right and what is wrong is a small group of people. Now, Lenin himself could not have believed it, because when Zinoviev and Kamenev and the bulk of the Russian Central Committee of the Bolshevik Party opposes the insurrection, he says, I'll take it to the rank and file. In other words, his implicit assumption is that the rank and file is a better judge of what is to be done at this moment than even the members of the Central Committee. One can actually go further. I think the fact, the problem with the Stalin formulation of the dictatorship, and each class has one party, therefore dictatorship of the proletariat becomes dictatorship of the party, and the party is run by democratic centralism, really essentially leads to centralism. Okay. But I think the test of a theory cannot just be whether the Central Committee thinks it's right or wrong, but there has to be something else, something outside of it. And that outside of it, then it raises a very important epistemological question. How can anybody else, how does the proletariat know whether the theory is better than, let us say, someone who has really read Hobson and knows about imperialism, knows what's happening all over the world, etc. I believe the answer to that question lies in the fact, that in my view, that the proletariat, even when it does not have a theory, has a class instinct. Okay? In other words, the class instinct of the proletariat is what theory appeals to for its validation, for its legitimization, and so on. Okay? Now, what I'm trying to say, or what I was trying to say, is that in the period in which world revolution appeared imminent, in which the general crisis of capitalism is supposed to have prevailed, there was this view that we may miss the opportunity unless we go it alone, that waiting for everybody else to make up their minds might be too late. That's why I call it a historical contingency. I do not think that is the way that revolutions would necessarily occur in future.
We have two more questions.
Yeah.
Okay, one more. You were there and there was somebody else here. Okay, first.
Thank you. My name is Sushil. You just answered a question saying a lot of theocratic forces are used to upstage the proletarian socialist, communist movements. You were also answering about the People's War as opposed to the imperialist war. In the 40s itself, there was another theoretical construct called the Gangadhar Adhikari thesis. It said that India is a multinational state and it must divide into several nationalities running into about 14 probably. And as a progression of this thesis, the then Communist Party supported the partition of India. It also found itself as a partner to Muslim League in elections. In fact, on 16th of August, when the Great Calcutta Massacre took place under Shahid Sohrawardi government, Jyoti Basu was part of the legislative bloc that ruled Calcutta.
Sorry, can you repeat that? Jyoti Basu was
part of the legislative bloc that ruled Bengal under Shahid Sohrawardi government. Now this is a bit of a contradiction. I thought Muslim League ran a campaign which was based on theology. It wanted to create an Islamic state on the basis of religion. And its entire politics was regressive, as opposed to Congress, which was secular, and was seeking to create a secular nation. So how do you explain this? Thank you.
Firstly, I would say that the Adhikari thesis was wrong. The Communist Party has accepted it, self-criticized, and what was wrong about it is the fact that religion is not the basis of the definition of a nationality. To say religion is the basis of the definition of a nationality is to accept in some sense the two-nation theory. And the Adhikari thesis was wrong because even though the idea of the right of nations to self-determination is something which has been accepted in the by the communists, had been accepted for a very long time, including by the CPIM until 1972, when they changed it at the Madurai Congress. The fact is that religion cannot be the basis for defining nationality. And this is obvious by the very partition of Pakistan. I mean, the fact that Bangladesh formed a separate country just shows that religion cannot be the basis for defining a nationality. As far as the Jyoti Basu being the bloc, I have had the good fortune of actually talking to Jyoti Basu exactly on this question. And Jyoti Basu told me that the day after the Calcutta massacres, they actually went to Sohrawardi in order to protest on behalf of the communists and to insist on various measures that had to be taken, etc. So it's not as if Jyoti Basu was complicit in this massacre. On the contrary, the communists generally, I think he and somebody else, maybe Bhupesh Gupta or somebody, they actually were not only concerned about it, but they raised their voice for the preservation of peace and so on.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak? This will be the last. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. I'm Arindam. My question is, related to the contradiction of socialism with fascism, which played out in the late 30s and 40s. I mean, enormous as it is, the contribution of Soviet Union in defeating fascism, do you perceive a link between the mobilization of war efforts against Hitler's forces that Soviet Union had to do, and associated things like collectivization of agriculture in the middle of the 30s, often forced in nature, which somehow leads eventually to a ossification of the dictatorship of the party, and in a sense something which is fundamentally different about socialism from capitalism, which is about emancipating human beings from alienation, is that fundamental experiment gets disrupted. Although Soviet Union formally defeated Hitler's army, but the project of socialism suffers a setback. Is there any link between that and the Soviet project?
There are two quite distinct questions in what you asked me, in my view. Anil put a time limit of 50 minutes of what I had to take, because of which there are parts of my lecture which I did not cover. And one of them relates to the peasantry. Nothing to do with fascism as such. The role of the peasantry in supporting the revolution, Lenin's perception of the role of the peasantry was absolutely important. In fact, there's a story which Tamara Deutscher refers to in her book called Not by Bread Alone. It's an interesting story that in a Central Committee meeting of the Bolshevik Party, Lenin talks about our state. This is just shortly after the revolution. Our state, which is a state of workers and peasants. At which point Bukharin objects, says, comrade, you are wrong, because our party documents are very clear that ours is the dictatorship of the proletariat. Lenin looks a bit puzzled. Then the Central Committee meeting is a 3-day meeting. He comes back next day. He says, comrade, Bukharin is right. Our state is in fact a dictatorship of the proletariat. But the point is, it's very clear that he saw the dictatorship of the proletariat as basically a worker-peasant alliance. Okay. Now, that worker-peasant alliance, how is it going to be sustained, particularly in the process of industrialization? There is Preobrazhensky's idea of primitive socialist accumulation, that if socialist industrialization has to take place, it must squeeze the peasantry, like capitalism had done and so on, you know. But on the other hand, there was the alternative view, which was Bukharin's view, namely that you actually could, kind of induce the peasantry to increase the output and so on, and in the process the resources so generated could be used for socialist industrialization. Now the fact is, I believe that squeezing the peasantry is something which was inimical to the cause of the revolution. Okay. Alternatives should have been tried out. I'm not saying that necessarily Bukharin was right, but something along those lines should have been tried out. And I believe if we are talking about socialism in today's context, it must be based upon a support and defense and promotion of the peasantry against the capitalist aggrandizement that's taking place now, because of which 2.5 lakh peasants have committed suicide. Okay. So far from the socialist forces saying that the development of productive forces is a jolly good idea and therefore let's have industrialization, even if it squeezes the peasantry, the whole idea should be for the socialist forces to defend the peasantry against capitalist industrialization and therefore by implication against any notion of a primitive socialist accumulation. That's the first question. The second question is about fascism. Now, there has been a lot of discussion of, obviously the Soviet Union needed to build its steel, needed to build its guns and so on and so forth in order to defeat fascism. How much of it was necessary? Whether the rate at which, the breakneck speed at which they industrialized was necessary to meet the fascist threat and so on. These are questions which have been discussed ad nauseum, and I don't really want to go into it. I mean, when I first joined JNU, Professor Bipin Chandra grabbed hold of me and said, so many tons of steel were not necessary in the Soviet Union. So okay, those are questions which can be discussed by experts.
Close here, but of course, as we know, it is only a temporary closure because there are 4 lectures and the argument builds up at a certain rate, not necessarily cumulatively. It does build up, and so I invite you all to the next lectures. And thank you very much for coming here today, and I thank Prabhat for this. Thank you.